Hi everyone, my name's Anne-Marie. Welcome to this card making project. In this episode, this is part 2 from the Die Cuts with a View Happy Stack card making project. If you've just seen part 1, then you'll have seen that I've made an insert for our card just to prove, that I do make them and what it might look like if you did one very similar. So you've seen that, and you'll know that I'm using an 8x8 square base for my card, the details of which are all going to be in the description box. If you've got any problems or any questions, as always, please feel free to comment, send me a message, get in touch. I love hearing from you, and that's why I've shown the inserts, because so many people have asked about, how do I do them, what shall I do, have you got any ideas? So that's the insert for this one. Now what I'm going to do is everything that I'm using, apart from a couple of things, are from the Happy Day stack. And as I go through it, I'll try and tell you what I'm using and what I've done. So the first thing that I've done is I've cut a card base from the stack, and I've cut it into just a slightly smaller size than the actual card that we're using. So roughly maybe 7.7 inches, something like that, 7.8. So that is just going to go straight onto our card front, and hopefully I've got it relatively straight. There we go. So the next thing I've got is on the actual Die Cuts with a View stack, there's some gorgeous wood card, and I've cut 2 strips off the dark wood sheet that there is, and I've put adhesive on the back of them, and I'm literally going to place one across my card that way, and then I'm going to place the other across the card at an angle like that. Now I'm just going to trim those off. They're roughly maybe about 1 inch wide, so I'm just going to trim them, not using my best scissors because there's glue on them, so I don't want to get adhesive all over my best scissors. Right, so that's our panelling stuck down. Just make sure we're making the card the right way around as well. Now the next thing, from the same sheet, I've cut out 3 panels that are roughly the same size as the card, less a few millimetres, so that they look like panels, and I can put them on our card with a tiny bit of gap between them, so it looks a little bit like a palette. I've torn and ripped the top and the bottom of the strips. Now I don't want to give you measurements because you might use a different size of card or make it smaller, etc. But to make it, I actually just cut an 8x8 size out of my base card, and then I started trimming it to fit, to make sure that I could get it, onto the card. And I'm taking the strips right to the edge at both sides, and then the middle strip, and they're all the same, so it doesn't really matter whether they're in or out. It's just I'm literally doing it so that I've got a gap, putting the middle one on last so that I've got a gap between them and that you can see it. So that's the first stage of our card, and they were on 3D foam, so they're raised up, but the panels crisscross, they were on flat tape. The next thing I've done is, now this item isn't from Die Cuts with a View, this is a doily that I've die cut from one of my own dies, my own stash, and I'm literally just going to pop a little bit of random glue on the back of it, and I'm just going to place it onto the card front, slightly not in the middle and not to one side, but on an angle on top of the panels that we've just put on. The next thing I've got is a sentiment that I've literally cut out of the pad. I've trimmed the top and the bottom away from it and then made it on 3D foam. I've reattached the top and the bottom and I've made tails for it, and I'm literally just going to add the tails to the card, and then I'm going to add the sentiment on top of the tails. This again, I've already attached the foam on the back to give it a little bit of height. So we'll place that over the tails like that. Now at the other side, in the pad, they've got some gorgeous doilies on one sheet. So I've cut 3 out in 3 different sizes, and again I've added 3D foam on the back of it, and I'm going to place one there and the second one next to it, and then the third one just at the base of the large one. Oops, take the back of the foam off like that. And the last thing I've done was I've made some rolled roses using the paper and a Marianne Creatable die. So I've made the rolled roses and some leaves, and I'm going to place these in the centre of our doilies like that. And there's 3 different sizes to go with the 3 doilies. And lastly, I've made a paper bow with a rolled rose in the centre and a couple of leaves, all made from the same papers that are in the stack, and I'm just going to place that at the top of our sentiment that we've already added. Oops, like that. And that finishes off our card. Oops, get it straight. Finishes off our card absolutely perfectly. And it's such a pretty card and pretty papers, and I probably say this every week with the die cuts with a view. I'm not supposed to have favourites, but I think this one could be this week from everything that we've looked at from die cuts with a view. It's just such a pretty pastel tones mixed in with the dark wood tones, really effective. So I hope you've enjoyed this project. If you have, please give me the thumbs up. Why not subscribe to my channel? Feel free to comment. You can always find me on Facebook, and the details will be right at the very end where you can find me on Facebook. So I'd like to thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again.